Smart mechanics are bypassing GMC dealers with the AFM delete loophole, and they're doing it on their own trucks first. 7 methods, every single one legal. One costs $8 and replaces an $800 dealer service. Another costs $240 and prevents a $5,500 engine failure that GM has been sued over in federal court. These are the tools mechanics use when the dealer isn't watching. Here's all 7. Bypass number 7, the $8 carbon cleaning routine. Every independent mechanic who works on Gen 5 GMC trucks, the 2019 and newer 5.3s and 6.2s with direct injection, does this on their own truck at every single oil change. Not most oil changes, every one. CRC GDI intake valve cleaner, $8 to $12 per can at any parts store. This is not seafoam. This is not a fuel additive you dump in the tank and hope for the best. This is a specific chemical formulation designed for one job: dissolving carbon deposits on intake valves in direct injected engines. Here's why mechanics don't skip this. Direct injection sprays fuel straight into the combustion chamber. The fuel never touches the back of the intake valves, so the oil vapors from the PCV system that coat those valve surfaces have nothing washing them off. Layer after layer of carbon hardens at combustion temperatures until airflow into the cylinders is physically restricted. The engine runs rough, misfires develop under load, power drops, and eventually you're sitting at the dealer looking at a walnut-blasting bill, $500 to $800. Mechanics prevent that bill entirely. At every oil change, every 5,000 to 7,000 miles, they spray CRC GDI cleaner directly into the throttle body in short controlled bursts while the engine idles at operating temperature. 10 minutes of work, $8 in product. Done. Critical detail. On Gen 5 engines, you do this through the throttle body, not through a vacuum line. The old-school seafoam through the brake booster line method does not apply to modern GM direct-injected V8s. CRC through the throttle body is the correct method. Every independent mechanic who specializes in GM trucks knows this. Many dealer technicians will happily charge you for walnut blasting instead of telling you. $8 in 10 minutes at every oil change prevents a $500 to $800 dealer carbon cleaning. Mechanics do this on their own trucks because the math takes 3 seconds to calculate. The dealer does it too. They just wait until the carbon is bad enough to charge you $800 for the removal instead of $8 for the prevention. The next bypass is even simpler. No special product needed. Just the right information that dealers have zero incentive to share with you. Bypass number 6, the Dexos Gen 3 oil protocol. This is the bypass that costs almost nothing and prevents the single most expensive common failure on GMV8 engines. And it comes down to 4 words: run the correct oil. Dexos Gen 3, not Gen 2, that's the old specification. Gen 3 is the current GM required oil certification. It carries specific additive packages engineered to protect the hydraulic lifters in AFM and DFM equipped engines. Those lifters operate under extreme pressure with microscopic tolerances. They need oil that maintains viscosity under heat, resists shear forces across the full drain interval, and keeps detergent levels active long enough to prevent sludge from clogging the tiny oil passages that feed each lifter. The correct viscosity: 0W20 for Gen 5 engines, 5W30 for Gen 4 trucks. These aren't suggestions. Their engineering specifications match to bearing clearances, oil pump flow rates, and hydraulic lifter pressure requirements on each platform. Here's what mechanics know that many quick lube shops don't care about. When you roll into a fast oil change place and ask for a standard oil change, you're often getting whatever bulk oil is in the overhead tank. It might meet Dexos certification. It might not. The viscosity might be correct. It might not. The tech doing the job is handling 40 cars a day and checking a box, not cross-referencing your VIN against GM's specific oil requirements. Every independent mechanic who works on their own GM truck runs Dexos Gen 3 certified oil in the exact correct viscosity. No exceptions, no substitutions. The cost difference between Dexos Gen 3 and generic conventional oil is roughly $8 per oil change. That's it, $8. The lifter failure it prevents, $3,000 to $5,500 on a 5.3. On Gen V DFM trucks closer to $6,000, heads off. All 16 lifters replaced, new camshaft, oil system flush, Full reassembly, the most common mechanical failure on GM V8 engines built after 2007, $8 more per oil change to run the correct oil, versus rolling the dice on a $3,500 to $6,000 lifter job every 5,000 miles. Mechanics don't gamble with this on their own trucks. Neither should you. Now, we move from prevention to diagnostics, and this next bypass is how independent mechanics compete with the dealer's $165 per dirty-sour diagnostic rate. Bypass number 5. Aftermarket diagnostic tools. The dealer's diagnostic setup, GM's MDI-2 hardware paired with GDS-2 software, costs $5,000 to $8,000. It reads every module in your truck, every subsystem, every sensor, every calibration state. It's the gold standard for GM diagnostics, and that cost is baked into the $165 per hour labor rate you pay every time the dealer plugs into your OBD2 port. Independent mechanics can't justify that cost for a single brand tool in a multi-brand shop, so they found alternatives that cover the vast majority of the gap at a fraction of the price. The Autel MaxiSys Ultra, $2,500 to $3,000, reads and programs modules across every major manufacturer, including GM. It handles engine, transmission, body, ABS, airbag, and HVAC diagnostics. It performs bidirectional controls, commanding specific actuators on and off to isolate faults, and on many GM platforms, it can perform module programming that used to be dealer exclusive. Not every function, not every module on every model year, but 85% of what walks through the shop door, an Autel handles without touching a dealer tool. HP Tuners, $500 to $800, covers a different piece of the puzzle: ECU calibration, data logging, transmission shift parameter adjustment. This is the tool mechanics use to read and modify the actual calibration files inside the engine and transmission control modules. Neither tool replaces GDS2 completely. There are always edge cases. But for the daily reality of diagnosing and servicing GMC trucks, the combination covers the overwhelming majority of what needs to be done, at a combined cost of $3,000 to $4,000 versus $5,000 to $8,000 for the dealer setup. The practical result for you as an owner: independent shops equipped with these tools diagnose your truck at $75 to $120 per hour instead of $165 at the dealer. Same codes, same data, same diagnostic accuracy on 90% of issues, different hourly rate. Aftermarket diagnostic tools at $3,000 to $4,000 cover 85% of what the dealer's $8,000 system does. Independent mechanics use these tools to deliver dealer-level diagnostics at half the labor rate. The dealer's diagnostic advantage is real, but it's narrower than they want you to believe. The next bypass closes the remaining gap, the 15% that aftermarket tools can't reach. If you're learning something new, hit subscribe and like this video. It takes 2 seconds and helps more GMC owners find this. 3 bypasses left, and they're the biggest ones. Bypass number 4. Independent shops with GM SPS access. Here's the part most GMC owners don't know exists. GM's proprietary programming system, SPS, the service programming system, is not exclusively available to dealerships. Under FTC guidance supporting consumers' right to repair, GM is required to make their programming tools accessible to non-dealer entities. That means independent shops can purchase SPS access. A 2-day pass runs $35 to $40. The shop needs compatible hardware, an MDI-2 interface or a J2534 pass-through device, and a stable internet connection to GM servers. But once connected, that independent shop can perform the exact same module programming that the dealer does. BCM replacement? The independent shop downloads your VIN-specific calibration from GM servers and writes it to the new module. ECM swap? Same process. TCM programming after a transmission repair? Same process. Every VIN-locked module that would otherwise require a dealer appointment at $300 to $500. Programmable at an independent shop for $100 to $150. These shops exist in every major market. They don't advertise on billboards. They operate through word of mouth in local GMC owner communities, truck forums, and mechanic referral networks. Finding one requires asking in the right places. local GMC groups on social media, truck-specific forums, or simply calling independent shops in your area and asking if they have GMSPS access. Independent shops with GMSPS subscriptions do the exact same module programming as the dealer at 100 to 150 versus 300 to 500. The tool is the same. The server is the same. The calibration files are the same. The only difference is the name on the building and the number on the invoice. Find one in your area and save 200 to 350 on every module replacement. Now, the next two bypasses are what mechanics install on their own trucks the day they buy them, not after a failure, not after a warning sign. Day 1, before the truck leaves the shop. Bypass number 3, the oil catch can. Every mechanic who works on GMV8 engines for a living installs this on their own truck before anything else. Not because it's the flashiest modification, because it attacks the root cause of a problem that costs hundreds of dollars to treat once the symptoms appear. Your GMC V8 has a positive crankcase ventilation system, the PCV system. It recirculates blow-by gases from the crankcase back into the intake manifold to be reburned. Those blow-by gases carry oil vapor, moisture, and combustion byproducts. That entire cocktail gets routed into your intake manifold, across your throttle body, and onto the back of your intake valves. On Gen 5 direct-injected engines, this is catastrophic. There's no port fuel injection washing those valves clean. The oily residue bakes onto the valve surfaces at combustion temperatures. The CRC treatment addresses existing deposits. The catch can prevent new ones from forming. Together, they're a complete carbon management system. An oil catch can install in the PCV line between the valve cover outlet and the intake manifold inlet. Internal baffles and condensation chambers separate oil vapor and moisture from the air. Clean air continues to the intake. Oil and moisture collect in a reservoir you drain every 3,000 to 5,000 miles. For GMV8 applications, Mishimoto at $150 to $200. UPR at $180 to $260. Billet technology at $200 to $300. All three have properly engineered internal baffling. Do not buy the $30 Amazon catch cans. They're empty cylinders with 2 fittings and 0 internal baffling. They catch almost nothing because they have no mechanism to separate oil vapor from air. The first time you drain a properly baffled catch can, after 5,000 miles, you'll understand why every mechanic runs one. A 1/4 ounce to a full ounce of dark, nasty oil residue in the reservoir, all of which would have been coating your intake valves and manifold walls. $150 to $250 to stop oil vapor contamination at the source before it becomes a $500 to $800 carbon cleaning bill. Mechanics install this day, one on every Gen 5 truck, because they've seen what the inside of an intake manifold looks like at 100,000 miles without one. You don't want to see it on yours. The next bypass turns your truck to a completely different vehicle the moment you touch the throttle. And it does it without pushing a single component past its factory safety margin. Bypass number 2, the conservative ECU tune. This is the bypass that separates mechanics who understand GMV8 calibration from everyone else. Because there is a massive critical difference between the tune that adds power and the tune that destroys your engine. And mechanics know exactly where the line is. The Diablo Sport InTune IE3. $400 to $800 depending on application. It plugs into your OBD2 port, reads your factory calibration, stores it as a backup, and reflashes the ECU with an optimized calibration. Conservative tunes, the kind every experienced mechanic runs on their own truck, stay well within the factory's built-in safety margins for timing advance, air-fuel ratio, and transmission shift pressure. Here's what GM left on the table from the factory. The stock calibration is deliberately soft. Throttle response is muted. Shift points are vague and indecisive. The engine management is tuned for CAFE fuel economy targets, emissions compliance, and a mushy driving experience that generates 0 complaints from buyers who never open the throttle past 30%. A conservative tune strips away that artificial softness. On a stock 5.3, 15 to 25 additional horsepower, and 15 to 20 foot-pounds of torque at the wheels. On a 6.2, 20 to 30 horsepower. But the peak number is not the real story. The transformation is in throttle response. The dead spot off idle disappears. The mid-range pulls tighter and harder. The truck responds to your right foot the way it should have from the factory. The transmission calibration alone is worth the device. The factory shift programming on the 8L90 and 10L80 is notorious for hunting between gears, soft shifting to the point of invisibility, and holding ratios too long under moderate throttle. The conservative tune firms up shift points to be crisp and decisive without hammering clutch packs. Multiple calibration storage, daily driving, towing, spirited driving. And because the i3 stores your factory calibration, you revert to bone stock in under 5 minutes for any dealer visit. Legal protection, the Magnuson-Moss Warranty Act, 15 U.S.C. Section 2302. The burden of proof is on the warrantor. GM must demonstrate that a specific modification caused a specific failure. Conservative tune operating within factory safety margins on stock internals is not the same as an aggressive tune that advances timing to the edge of detonation. $400 to $800 for 15 to 30 additional horsepower, transformed throttle response, and transmission shifts that finally make sense, all within factory safety margins. Mechanics run conservative tunes on their own trucks because they know exactly where the safe line is. The dealer charges you $165 an hour to tell you the factory calibration is the only option. It isn't. And now, number 1, the bypass that gives this video its name, the one every mechanic installs before the truck even leaves the lift for the first time. The AFM Delete Loophole, bypass number 1. The range technology AFM and DFM disabler, $240 to $270. Plugs into the OBD2 port under the dash, 30 seconds to install, 0 tools. And it directly eliminates the single most expensive, most common, and most completely preventable mechanical failure on every GM V8 engine built in the last 20 years. Every independent mechanic who specializes in GM trucks does this on their own truck the day they buy it. Not after the first lifter tick. Not after the warranty expires. Day 1, before the first drive home. Because they've seen what happens when AFM and DFM run unchecked. And they've handed enough $3,500 to $5,500 repair estimates to GMC owners to know that prevention costs $240 and the cure costs 10 to 20 times that. Active Fuel Management, AFM, deactivates 4 of 8 cylinders under light load. Dynamic Fuel Management, DFM, on 2019 and newer trucks cycles through 17 different cylinder deactivation patterns. The hydraulic lifters that make this happen lock and unlock hundreds of times per hour. Each transition stresses the locking pin, the lifter body, and the camshaft lobe. Over time, 40 to 80,000 miles for many trucks, lifters wear, stick, and collapse. A collapsed lifter takes out the push rod, grinds the cam lobe flat, sends metal debris into the oil system, and contaminates every bearing surface in the engine. The repair heads off, all 16 lifters replaced, new camshaft, oil system flush, full reassembly. $3,000 to $5,500 on a 5.3. On Gen 5 DFM trucks, closer to $6,000. This failure is the subject of a federal class action, Harrison versus General Motors, alleging that GM knowingly sold trucks with defective AFM lifters and replaced failed parts with the same defective design. The range technology disabler communicates with the ECU through the OBD2 port and tells the engine management system to keep all 8 cylinders firing at all times. It does not modify the tune, does not alter fuel maps, does not change timing, does not touch transmission calibration. One single function: prevent the constant cylinder activation and deactivation cycling that destroys lifters. Here's why GM won't tell you about this. Active fuel management and dynamic fuel management are critical to meeting corporate average fuel economy (CAFE) standards. Without cylinder deactivation showing fuel savings on the EPA test cycle, GM's truck fleet fuel economy numbers fall below the federal threshold. The fines for non-compliance are massive. GM needs AFM and DFM on paper to pass federal regulations. Your engine pays the price in the real world. Will you lose fuel economy with the disabler? Yes. 1 to 2 miles per gallon in mixed driving. At current fuel prices, roughly $300 to $400 per year in additional fuel cost. The lifter failure it prevents costs $3,500 to $6,000. The disabler pays for itself the first time it prevents one failure, and it only has to do that once in the truck's entire life to return 10 to 20 times its cost. There's a quality of life bonus that has nothing to do with reliability. That weird, unsettling vibration at highway cruising speed when your GMC drops to 4-cylinder mode. The shudder that makes passengers ask if something is wrong with the truck. That's AFM, gone the instant the disabler is plugged in. Smooth, consistent V8 idle and cruise at all RPMs, the way it was supposed to feel. Every mechanic who works on these trucks for a living sees the pattern. Every truck that comes in with a lifter tick was running AFM or DFM without a disabler. Every truck at 200,000 miles with clean lifters and a healthy cam had the disabler installed early or was running a pre-AFM engine that never had the system. The correlation is not subtle, it's not debatable, it's documented across hundreds of thousands of trucks. $240 to prevent a $5,500 catastrophic engine failure. 30 seconds to install, 0 tools, 0 tune modification, 0 risk. The single highest return on investment modification that exists for any GM V8 truck. Period. This is the AFM delete loophole. This is why smart mechanics install it on their own trucks before anything else. And this is the one bypass that GM dealers will never recommend because the system it disables is the one keeping GM's fuel economy numbers legal. 7 bypasses. Every one legal. Every dollar amount verified. $8 for carbon prevention, the dealer charges $800 to fix. Correct oil that costs $8 more per change and prevents a $3,500 lifter job. Diagnostic tools at a fraction of dealer cost. Independent shops programming modules for half the dealer price. A catch can stopping contamination at the source. A conservative tune unlocking what the factory left on the table. And the $240 AFM delete loophole that eliminates the most expensive failure on every GM V8 built in the last 2 decades. These are the tools mechanics use when the dealer isn't watching. Now, they're yours. Go watch our video on 5 cheap GMC engine fixes everyone ignores, and the one covering your $65,000 GMC's known defect that GM is doing nothing about. Both pair with everything you learned today. See you in the next one.